Hello everyone, and welcome to another video with me, Umber Rays, and the music is slightly too loud for me, so it is a little distracting. Today I want to talk about the UoC, the tale of the UoC and Alim, a tale of fail, as I'm going to call it. Because recently and by recently I mean approximately 20 days ago, because I've been, as I said in my last video, and I'm done making excuses for it, I've been busy with work, also I am really behind on my videos. At some point, I'm going to do that UoC video, I promise. Anyway, to get right back to it, Brave Exvius has been an interesting run, to say the least, with things such as marketing things and product and merchandise. And yes, I did buy this for 1,000 yen, which is roughly 10 bucks. I didn't get it out of a UFO catcher. The only reason I got it is because it's kind of cute, and I actually kind of like Fina. Especially... Anyway, moving on. The UoC has had a very interesting history since its conception in the game of Brave Exvius. At the time, it was seen as a massive boost to the game and to the player base. It was the coolest thing ever. Sure, 10 of them. I mean, it takes a while to get 10 of them, but... that's great. I mean, it's awesome that we get to have a backup to get characters that we really want. For anybody who doesn't know, and that shouldn't be anybody at this point, but just in case, the UoC is a 10-piece ticket system. You get 10 of these tickets, and you get to choose any character of your choice in the normal summon pool, not including limited or collaboration units. Fair enough. And I would be remiss to not say that over time, Alim has done a rather poor implementation of these, given the fact that in the more recent live stream that happened at the end of May 2019, Alim said that UoCs have cut into their bottom line and hurt their profit margin so much that they had to basically come up with the Summon Festival. And for the sake of this video, I am not really going to comment on whether or not I think this is the truth. It doesn't really matter whether this is the truth. We have to for the sake of this video and the sake of my sanity in recording this video, I am going to consider yes. Let's all just accept going forward the UoC did hurt their bottom line, and that they have had to implement the Summon Festival because profits have been very low, and they have to deliver performance evaluations to not only Square Enix, but Square Enix's board of directors and investors. And for anybody also, I want to preface this video with one other contingency, which is the fact that it is not enough that companies just make money. That is never really just the goal of a company. The goal is to see year-over-year returns on investments, and also a certain amount of growth. It is not enough for a company just to do well. They have to do better than the previous year, which isn't that like a little bit of a bubble and that will eventually burst? Yeah, kind of, but, and that's kind of the folly of certain business plans and perspectives. But for the sake of this video, Alim needs to deliver certain reports, both in terms of logins and profits and growth to Square Enix, as well as probably Gummy, because they are a subsidiary of Gummy. At least that is the way I have heard it explained in terms of Alim and Gummy's relationship. Either way, we need to hold these two facts true before we get into the video, because the simple thing is that regardless of whether or not it has hurt the bottom line, what's interesting is Alim's point of view that it is kind of everyone's fault but themselves. They would never admit to so much fault, but I would like to propose that there was a rather big fail on Alim's part in 2 points. First of all, how many UoCs they have given out, their major complaint, the fact that they have given out too many, and the second fact, their solution with Summon Festivals, which really does seem quite a bit like just a way to get more money out of its remaining player base. At this point, we know that the JP player base has dropped in terms of its size. how influential all of that player base that has left is kind of a little bit, well, debatable, let's say. We'll leave it as debatable. But either way, Alim has had a track record of originally giving out very few UoCs to start, and gradually giving out quite a few as major maintenance mishaps, including the giant friend list problem, as well as giving them out during anniversaries and everything through the anniversary ticket system and whatnot for the 3rd anniversary. And the point is that eventually Alim ended up giving out too much. Really, at this point, I have no sympathy for Alim on this fault. They are the ones who choose how they distribute this UoC and how they continue to distribute the UoC. But what's worse is the lack of communication until things got really bad. The fact that Alim just decided, well, we're going to start reducing the rewards that we give out every month in different places, in different areas, to try and fix the problem, but we're not going to say anything to the players why. Again, I think that both Gummy and Alim have had a absolutely horrible track record of communication with the player until it is absolutely necessary. Whoever is responsible for it, whether it is the parent company, whether it is Gummy executives, whether it is the board of directors, whether it's a fish in the tank at Square Enix, it doesn't really matter. The communication has been bad and inexcusably bad to what I would consider. The level of quality of communication has been historically bad and has never shown sign of improvement, which is, again, one reason why I feel like it is hard to trust the company. They are not interested in communicating efficiently anymore. The Luna Freya banner would be a great example, and I know I keep bringing it up, but it really is just a good example of how uninterested they are with communicating with their player base. And the idea that even with it was bounced around the team, as if lower level people in the company and the design team really had much of a choice as compared to the executives who said, listen, we're going to screw our players out of money because our bottom line is hurting. I have no doubt in my mind that Alim and Gummy's bottom line was hurting, and they basically said, well, let's try and screw our players out of money by splitting Noctis and Luna and keeping Luna secret, and acting like it's a pleasant surprise and putting her on the worst banner that I think Brave Exvius has seen since the 1% troll rainbow banners. Yeah, I'm bringing that up too. Either way, Alim chooses how often, what percentages a UoC can be in a even anniversary pool. And while I get that they want their anniversary to be great, because it's their celebration and their game is still going and still doing well, the idea that Alim is going to really pass that off as an excuse that we gave too much, so now our players have to suck it up, I feel is rather pathetic and not acceptable, is the way I would put it as a personal consumer. I have already personally put in I have already voiced my opinion by, stopping playing the game. But regardless of that, the other thing that's interesting that I find about Alim is their lack of any kind of solution whatsoever. The solution that they have come up with is summon festivals. Limited versions... How do I say this better? Limited versions of characters that are primary Final Fantasy characters, and also Brave Exvius characters. Basically characters that, most people who play the game actually kind of want. And I get it. They made these characters very powerful. But why was the only solution that Alim kind of has talked about was just removing it from the pool? Or better yet, why didn't they ask the community what they would have preferred more? That way, there could have been I don't think anybody inherently wants Brave Exvius to die unless Brave Exvius is kind of bad. So if that's the case, then really we don't want our game to die. We've invested a lot of time, and that's one of the things that makes leaving Brave Exvius so difficult. So we want, personally as gamers, and who have been very habitualized to a game, we want the game to continue to do well. Why not ask the players a bunch of solutions towards this problem. Again, Alim wasn't interested. Alim didn't want to do it. So again, bringing up their bottom line, they figured, hey, let's make summon festivals. We'll give an upped rate on it, in which case 5% on a rainbow rate is still surprisingly pretty damn bad, as it turns out. Putting them on split banners, doing a whole bunch of different things, and once they're gone, and they may come back. Alim has said multiple times that they will come back. When exactly is a fear tactic to make people pull again. But here's the alternative solution that I really kind of wish Alim would have considered. If there are just too many UoCs, why not make summon festival characters just worth more UoCs? And I'm not even talking about a small increase. Why not make it 40 UoCs, 50 UoCs? Well, 50 is a little bit much. 50 would have been on the high end, but even 30 rapidly decreases the power of the UoC, especially for a potential new wave of powerful characters. The idea that, hey, they can be summoned festivals, they can still be summoned through UoCs, but you need a lot more UoCs, and the UoC rate will not go up. Still makes people pull for it, but doesn't completely invalidate the UoC to a bunch of characters that are nowhere near as powerful as some people would want and enjoy in the game, while also holding characters hostage. But I find the most funny thing that is the irony of, and I don't even know, I'm not Alanis Morissette. I'm not 100% on the definition of irony. Well, kind of. But anyway, I find it very funny looking at the historic trend of giving away UoCs, because the UoC problem, interestingly enough, kind of Alim shot themselves in their own foot. And the biggest thing that probably has screwed Alim the most is the special week of Arena. A week that is, by most JP accounts, or JP players' accounts, a living hell. And why is it a living hell? Mainly because you have to spend just so much time grinding out Arena to get like what is basically needed 1 million Arena points. And what is the top prize for players who are spending that much lapis refreshing? UoCs. And it doesn't take a genius to find out that the value of those UoCs was extremely high at that time, hence why people were spending so much on limited special time Arena, because whales, who were already spending a ton of money in the game, who maybe were using resellers, who were maybe doing a whole bunch of different things, it didn't matter to them. They could just stockpile a massive amount of UoCs, while regular lower base players, the players who probably needed those UoCs more, just couldn't get anything really out of it, or very little, without having to spend a lot more in resources. So Alim ended up maybe short-term giving themselves a bit of a financial boost to the previous year, but now they find themselves in a situation where players have too many UoCs, and they had to find a way to get their whales to spend money again. Not exactly the greatest thing. So really, my feelings on all of this is the fact that Alim has done a absolutely historically, unbelievably bad way of distributing UoCs, and now has kind of just said, well, we did a bad job of it, so the fault falls on our players. Players will have to spend more and deal with more difficult, in a more difficult environment in the future to make up for our oopsie daisies. Again, what feels like a really shitty thing that was poorly communicated, and now has left a lot of the player base feeling frustrated. Not only that, but with the increased time frame, which I talked about in a recent video. And Alim came up with probably the worst of all situations, just invalidating the UoC. Creating a second system of UoCs, I think, the more I think about it, is just bad, like a super UoC or a Summon Festival UoC. Because a Summon Festival UoC is just restarting the problem. And I will admit that even making the cost of certain units more UoCs is kind of just pushing back the problem. But the other thing is that it gets way too confusing when you have all these tickets flying around and nobody really, you know, it's like, oh, well, I have to do this to get this, but it's confusing to players, and it would have been another barrier of entry to newer players who are trying to get used to the game. However, I still feel like there could have been a much better solution. And Alim also said in the live stream that they have no plans of doing anything about this. So it just kind of leaves us all, or leaves all JP players in a kind of weird spot. And global players, you are not immune to this by any means. If anything, what you could see in the near future is you could see the bottom line has been hurt by X, Y, or Z on the global side. What has been given out the most in global? What is the most generous thing? And could it hurt FFBGL in the long run? FFBEGL in the long run. I probably missed a letter there, but anyway. So when it comes down to it, I have very little pity for Alim, or I guess I should even say I have nothing but contempt for Alim about the situation they find themselves in. It's kind of bad for the lower developers because I feel like they've had no choice in the matter and they've just had to go with whatever executives make. And as usual with executives, it is never the executive's fault. It is never the game's fault. It is never the business's fault. It's anything else. Players are just not spending as much. The UoC is the problem. All of this thing. There are plenty of games out there that have gacha games that have done financially and fiscally very well despite having systems. It just kind of convinces me long run that Alim and Gummy just really have no clue about how to balance or properly run any of these games. And what you're looking at for any of these games, including the future War of the Visions, is probably a good couple of years with a good couple of first years with the long dragged out later years. Surviving basically on the IP name and a bunch of players who are still spending money because they are too strongly invested to just walk away from a game that they have spent $1,000, $2,000, upward thousands of dollars on the game, and that is kind of just the problem. Just one of these games cannot cost that much to continually keep going, especially if there just isn't that much server traffic. And outputting new content, really, in terms of Brave Exvius, in terms of the sprites and the animations and everything, they're wonderful, but but if you compare it to other games out there who use either, 3D modeling, which maybe has its own cost cutting. I'm not a developer, so I'm not overly familiar with it, but I feel like Brave Exvius, in terms of what it puts out, other than the CGs, the cost of making the game is really not that high that it is doing that. And this is, if I was to give my unofficial opinion, which I probably just won't because taking into the idea that it has hurt the bottom line, and I'm just long story shorting now, I really think that Alim has no one to blame but themselves, that them pushing all of this onus on the consumer has done nothing for either my confidence in Brave Exvius of ever recovering, or potentially the idea that anything Alim or Gummy ever produces could be good. I will play War of the Visions at the start to kind of give it a chance to see what it is like. Will I spend a dime on it? Not a chance in hell. Gummy and Alim properties are just so poorly managed at this point in terms of just looking historically between, Brave Frontier with its insane power creep and TAC with its power creep. I would just say no. So taking a look at the UoC, it is definitely a tale of fail, both on the distribution as well as the solution to the problem. Hats off to you, Alim. I look forward to seeing what happens in the next few months regarding the UoC, and whether you backpedal it on again from pressure from people, or whether you stay course and the game officially just completely zombifies. Anyway, regardless, I would say to all of you people playing out there, still try to have fun with what you can, but remember, just because you've invested a ton of hours, a ton of time, or maybe even money into this game, doesn't mean that you as a player don't deserve maybe a better environment to play. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.